Before we begin tonight's journey into the ancient world, take a gentle moment to support the channel. If you enjoy calm storytelling, relaxing history, and peaceful facts designed to help you fall asleep, consider subscribing and liking the video. Your support helps create more quiet stories like this, completely free and without adverts. Now, dim the lights, get comfortable, take a slow breath, and let's wander softly into the distant past. Imagine the world thousands of years ago, long before modern cities, long before electricity, long before the constant noise of today. The ancient world moved slowly. Days followed the rhythm of the sun, the seasons guided daily life, and people lived closely connected to nature. One of the earliest known cities on Earth was called Uruk. It existed in the land we now know as Iraq, more than 5,000 years ago. At night, the city would grow quiet except for the soft crackle of cooking fires and the distant sound of animals. Uruk was surrounded by tall mud brick walls, and inside those walls lived tens of thousands of people, making it one of the first true cities in human history. In the ancient world, writing had not always existed. For thousands of years, stories and knowledge were passed down by memory alone. Eventually, in Mesopotamia, people began pressing small wedge-shaped marks into wet clay tablets. This writing system became known as cuneiform. Once the clay dried in the sun, the words were preserved for thousands of years, allowing us today to read thoughts written by people who lived 5 millennia ago. The Egyptians believed the night sky was a sacred place. They imagined the goddess Nut stretching across the heavens, her body forming the arch of the sky. Every evening, the sun was believed to travel through her body, only to be reborn again at dawn. To the ancient Egyptians, sunrise was not just a daily event. It was a miracle repeated every single day. Along the banks of the Nile River, life moved slowly and predictably. Every year, the river flooded its banks, leaving behind rich, dark soil. Farmers waited patiently for this flood because it made their crops grow strong. Without the Nile's gentle rhythm, Egyptian civilization would never have existed. Far away in the lands of ancient China, people carefully observed the stars. Chinese astronomers kept records of comets, eclipses, and supernovas long before many other civilizations. Some of their star charts are more than 2,000 years old, and they still help modern scientists understand how the sky has changed over time. In ancient Greece, philosophers spent long afternoons thinking about the nature of the universe. One philosopher named Thales believed that everything in the world was made from water. Another thinker, Democritus, imagined that matter was made of tiny invisible particles. He called these particles atoms, a word we still use today. Ancient people also loved stories. In Greece, travelers gathered to hear tales of heroes and monsters. The story of the Odyssey told of a long journey across dangerous seas. Sailors listened carefully to these stories because they reflected the fears and mysteries of real voyages across the Mediterranean. On quiet evenings in ancient Rome, people often visited bathhouses. These were not only places for washing, but also centers of conversation and relaxation. Warm water pools, cool pools, and steam rooms allowed Romans to spend hours unwinding. Some bathhouses were so large that thousands of people could visit in a single day. In the deserts of Peru, the Nazca people created enormous drawings on the ground known as geoglyphs. These shapes included animals, birds, and long geometric lines stretching across the desert floor. The drawings are so large that they are best seen from the sky. Even today, historians are still discussing why these mysterious designs were made. Ancient sailors navigated the oceans using the stars. By watching how constellations moved across the night sky, they could determine direction even in the middle of the open sea. The North Star, in particular, became an important guide because it stays nearly fixed in the sky. In India, thousands of years ago, scholars wrote ancient texts known as the Vedas. These writings contained hymns, philosophy, and early ideas about the nature of the universe. Many of these teachings were memorized and spoken aloud for generations before they were ever written down. In the forests of Central America, the Maya civilization built impressive cities with towering stone pyramids. At night, the jungle around these cities filled with the sounds of insects and distant animals. Above the temples, the sky appeared incredibly bright, untouched by the artificial lights we know today. The Maya were also remarkable astronomers. They carefully tracked the movements of Venus and other celestial bodies. Their calendars were so accurate that they could predict eclipses and planetary cycles with impressive precision. In ancient Persia, a vast network of roads connected distant cities across mountains and deserts. One famous road, known as the Royal Road, allowed messengers to travel more than 2,000 kilometers across the empire. Relay stations along the way allowed riders to switch horses and continue their journey quickly. Even in ancient times, people loved gardens. In Babylon, stories describe the Hanging Gardens, a place filled with trees, flowers, and flowing water rising above the city. Although historians still debate whether these gardens truly existed, the image of a peaceful green paradise in the middle of a hot desert has fascinated people for centuries. In ancient Japan, early farmers carefully grew rice in flooded fields called paddies. The reflection of the sky and the water made these fields look almost like mirrors stretching across the countryside. Across the Mediterranean, traders sailed slowly between ports, carrying olive oil, pottery, spices, and precious metals. These journeys could take weeks, but they connected distant cultures and allowed ideas, art, and knowledge to travel between civilizations. And everywhere in the ancient world, night eventually arrived. Without electric lights, darkness spread gently across villages and cities. People looked up at the stars far more often than we do today. The sky appeared deeper, brighter, and filled with countless points of light. For ancient people, the stars were not just distant objects. They were stories, guides, calendars, and sometimes even gods. So as you continue to relax and drift deeper into this quiet journey through history, remember that every ancient ruin, every clay tablet, every stone temple was once part of someone's everyday life. People laughed, worked, dreamed, and watched the same moon that shines above us tonight. And this is only the beginning of our slow exploration through the ancient world. But before we continue further into these peaceful facts from long ago, make sure you subscribe to the channel and support the creation of more relaxing history journeys like this one. Now, take another slow breath, settle in, and prepare to continue our quiet walk through the distant past in the next part. Before we continue drifting through the quiet wonders of the ancient world, take a gentle moment to support the journey. If you enjoy relaxing history and peaceful storytelling designed to help you unwind and fall asleep, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like on the video. Your support allows more calm stories like this to exist without interruptions or adverts. Now, get comfortable again, relax your shoulders, take a slow breath, and let the ancient world slowly unfold. In the ancient city of Athens, mornings often began with the soft sound of footsteps on stone streets. Merchants opened small stalls in the marketplace, known as the agora. Here, people gathered not only to buy food and goods, but also to talk, debate ideas, and share stories. The agora was the heart of daily life, where philosophers, farmers, artists, and travelers crossed paths. The philosopher Socrates was often seen walking slowly through the marketplace, asking simple questions that led people into deep conversations. Instead of giving lectures, he believed that asking thoughtful questions helped people discover truth on their own. His calm discussions under the warm Mediterranean sun would later influence philosophy for thousands of years. Far to the west, along the Atlantic coast of Europe, ancient builders placed enormous stones upright in circular patterns. One of the most famous of these places is Stonehenge in England. Massive stones, some weighing more than 20 tons, were transported many kilometers and carefully arranged in rings. Even today, historians continue to study how these stones were moved and why the monument was built. Many researchers believe Stonehenge was connected to the movement of the sun. During the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, the sunrise aligns perfectly with the stones, creating a quiet and beautiful moment that has been observed for thousands of years. In the warm lands of ancient Egypt, the construction of the pyramids required careful planning and patience. Workers transported limestone blocks along the Nile River on wooden boats. Once the stones arrived, teams of laborers used ramps, ropes, and sledges to slowly move each block into place. The Great Pyramid of Giza remained the tallest human-made structure on Earth for nearly 4,000 years. Despite its massive size, the pyramid was built with astonishing precision. The four sides are aligned almost perfectly with the four cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. At night in Egypt, the desert air cooled quickly. The pyramid stood silent beneath a vast sky filled with stars. Many ancient Egyptians believed that the souls of pharaohs traveled into the heavens to join the stars after death. In ancient China, long before modern machines existed, workers built sections of what would later become the Great Wall. The wall stretched across mountains, valleys, and deserts. Some early sections were made not from stone, but from packed earth, carefully pressed together to create strong defensive barriers. Travelers moving along these distant roads often relied on caravans. Groups of merchants, animals, and guides moved together for safety. Camels carried silk, spices, precious stones, and other valuable goods along routes that would later become known as the Silk Road. The Silk Road was not just a path for trade. It also allowed cultures to exchange ideas, languages, art, and technology. Over time, knowledge traveled slowly across continents, connecting civilizations that had never met face to face. In ancient Rome, roads were built with incredible durability. Roman engineers layered stones, gravel, and sand to create strong surfaces that could last for centuries. Many of these roads still exist today, quietly reminding us of the engineering skills of the ancient world. Roman travelers sometimes followed milestones placed along the road. These stone markers told them how far they had traveled and how far remained to the next city. Walking along these roads could take days or weeks, but the paths connected the vast Roman Empire from Britain to the Middle East. In the high mountains of South America, the Inca civilization built cities among the clouds. One of the most famous of these places is Machu Picchu. The city rests high in the Andes Mountains, surrounded by mist and green peaks. The Incas carefully carved stones so precisely that the blocks fit together without mortar. Even today, many of these walls remain standing after hundreds of years of earthquakes. The Inca also created an extensive network of mountain trails. Messengers known as chasqui ran along these paths carrying important messages. By working together in relay teams, these runners could deliver news across the empire with surprising speed. Meanwhile, across the ocean in ancient India, scholars at universities such as Nalanda gathered to study subjects including mathematics, medicine, astronomy, and philosophy. Students traveled from distant regions of Asia to learn there, creating one of the earliest international centers of learning. Ancient mathematicians in India developed the concept of zero as a number. This simple but powerful idea eventually transformed mathematics and science around the world. In the ancient Middle East, people began using simple water clocks to measure time. Water slowly dripped from one container to another, allowing observers to track the passing hours even during the night. Other ancient cultures used sundials, which cast shadows that moved slowly throughout the day as the sun crossed the sky. Watching these shadows reminded people that time moved steadily, guided by the rhythm of nature. In Greece, large outdoor theaters were built into hillsides. Thousands of spectators could sit on stone seats and watch actors perform dramatic stories. Because the theaters were carefully designed, even a quiet voice spoken on stage could be heard by people sitting far away. Many plays explored themes of fate, courage, and human choices. As audiences watched these performances beneath the open sky, the experience was both entertainment and reflection. In ancient Africa, the kingdom of Kush flourished along the Nile south of Egypt. The Kushites built their own pyramids, smaller but steeper than those in Egypt. These pyramids still rise quietly above the desert sands of modern-day Sudan. Throughout the ancient world, music played an important role in daily life. People created instruments from wood, bone, clay, and metal. Harps, flutes, drums, and lyres filled temples, homes, and celebrations with gentle sounds. Even after thousands of years, archaeologists sometimes discover these instruments buried in ancient ruins. When recreated, they still produce soft melodies that echo the music of long ago. And as evening returned to ancient cities and villages, oil lamps were lit one by one. Small flames flickered gently inside clay lamps filled with olive oil. Their warm light illuminated quiet rooms where families gathered, shared food, and told stories. Outside, the stars slowly appeared again, just as they had the night before, and the night before that, stretching endlessly back through time. The ancient world moved at a slower pace than our modern lives, guided by sunrise, sunset, and the steady turning of the seasons. And our calm journey through its stories has only just begun. Before we continue into the next peaceful chapter of ancient history, remember to subscribe and like the video if you're enjoying this relaxing exploration. Your support helps keep these quiet journeys alive. Now, breathe slowly, relax deeper, and get ready to continue drifting through the ancient world in the next part. Before we continue our calm journey deeper into the ancient world, take a gentle moment to support the channel. If you enjoy relaxing stories from history and peaceful facts that help you unwind at the end of the day, consider subscribing and leaving a like on the video. Your support helps keep these quiet, advert-free journeys possible. Now, settle in again, take a slow breath, and allow your mind to drift peacefully back through time. Imagine a quiet evening in ancient Mesopotamia. The sun has just set beyond the flat horizon, and the warm air slowly begins to cool. In the distance, the silhouette of a towering structure rises above the city. This is a ziggurat, a massive stepped temple built from sun-baked mud bricks. Ziggurats stood at the center of many Mesopotamian cities. Their staircases climbed upward toward a small temple at the top, where priests performed rituals and offerings. From the ground below, these towering structures looked like artificial mountains rising from the plains. People believed the gods watched over the city from above, and the high temple brought them closer to the heavens. In the ancient city of Babylon, one of the most famous kings was Hammurabi. He ruled nearly 4,000 years ago and created one of the earliest known written law codes. These laws were carved into a tall stone pillar so that everyone could see them. The Code of Hammurabi contained hundreds of rules about daily life. It described how disputes should be settled, how trade should be conducted, and how justice should be carried out. Although many of the punishments were strict, the idea that laws should be written and visible to everyone was an important step in the development of organized societies. Meanwhile, along the warm shores of the Mediterranean Sea, the Phoenicians became some of the greatest sailors of the ancient world. Their ships traveled across wide waters, visiting distant ports and trading goods such as purple dye, glass, cedar wood, and finely crafted jewelry. The Phoenicians also helped spread an alphabet system that used simple symbols to represent sounds. This idea made writing easier to learn and would eventually influence the alphabets used in many languages today. When night fell on the open sea, Phoenician sailors looked up at the stars for guidance. The gentle rocking of the ship, the quiet wind in the sails, and the steady glow of the North Star helped them navigate across dark waters. Far to the east, ancient Chinese scholars carefully recorded the changing seasons. They observed how plants grew, how animals behaved, and how the moon changed shape across the month. These observations helped farmers know the best times to plant crops and harvest food. The Chinese calendar was deeply connected to nature. Festivals celebrated the arrival of spring, the brightness of summer, the harvest of autumn, and the quiet stillness of winter. In ancient Greece, athletes gathered every 4 years for a remarkable event known as the Olympic Games. These games were held in the city of Olympia and honored the god Zeus. During the Olympics, wars between Greek city-states were often paused so athletes and spectators could travel safely to the games. Competitors raced, wrestled, threw discs, and tested their strength before large crowds. Winners did not receive gold medals as athletes do today. Instead, they were crowned with simple wreaths made from olive leaves. Yet, the honor of victory was so great that many champions were celebrated as heroes when they returned home. In the deserts of northern Africa, caravans slowly crossed the Sahara, carrying salt, gold, and valuable goods between distant regions. The journeys were long and quiet, often lasting weeks under the vast open sky. Camels made these travels possible. Their ability to store energy and survive with little water allowed traders to move through one of the harshest environments on Earth. At night, the desert became peaceful and cool. Travelers rested beside small fires, while above them, the stars stretched endlessly across the dark sky. Across the ocean in ancient Mesoamerica, the Olmec civilization created large stone sculptures known as colossal heads. These massive carvings, made from volcanic rock, sometimes stood more than 3 meters tall. Each head appears to represent an individual person, possibly a ruler or important leader. Their calm faces, wide noses, and helmet-like headgear remain one of the most mysterious artistic achievements of the ancient Americas. Creating these sculptures required enormous effort. The heavy stones were transported many kilometers before being carefully shaped by skilled artisans. In ancient Rome, people loved storytelling in many forms. One of the most popular places for entertainment was the amphitheater. The largest of these structures was the Colosseum. Although many events held there were loud and dramatic, the structure itself was an impressive piece of engineering. Massive stone arches supported thousands of seats arranged in rising circles around the central arena. Underground passages beneath the arena allowed animals, scenery, and performers to move quietly before appearing on the stage above. Roman architects were also masters of building aqueducts. These long channels carried fresh water from distant mountains into cities and towns. Some aqueducts stretched for dozens of kilometers, supported by graceful arches that still stand today. The steady flow of water allowed Roman cities to have fountains, baths, and clean drinking water. In ancient India, early doctors studied medicine using detailed observation of the human body. Medical texts described surgical procedures, herbal remedies, and techniques for maintaining health. One ancient surgeon named Sushruta wrote descriptions of operations that included repairing injuries and even early forms of plastic surgery. His teachings influenced medical knowledge for centuries. Meanwhile, high in the mountains of the Andes, farmers built terraces along steep hillsides. These carefully constructed steps allowed them to grow crops such as potatoes and maize in areas where flat farmland was scarce. The terraces also helped prevent soil from washing away during heavy rains. From a distance, these mountain farms looked like giant staircases carved into the landscape. In many ancient cultures, the moon played an important role in marking time. People noticed how it slowly changed from a thin crescent to a bright, full circle and back again. These repeating cycles helped shape calendars and guided festivals, planting seasons, and religious ceremonies. Even tonight, the moon continues the same quiet journey across the sky that ancient people watched thousands of years ago. As evening deepened in ancient homes, families gathered around small fires or oil lamps. The warm glow of the flame created a peaceful atmosphere where stories could be shared. Parents told children about heroes, animals, and distant lands. Elders spoke of ancestors and traditions passed down through generations. Outside, the wind moved softly through trees, rivers flowed steadily through valleys, and the stars shone above cities and villages alike. The ancient world was filled with countless stories, discoveries, and quiet moments like these. And as you relax more deeply into this gentle exploration of history, remember that we have only just begun uncovering the peaceful facts of our distant past. Before we continue the journey in the next part, take a moment to subscribe and support the channel if these calming stories are helping you relax. Your support allows more slow, peaceful history journeys to be created. Now close your eyes if you wish. Breathe slowly and prepare to drift even further into the ancient world in the next part. Before we continue our gentle journey through the ancient world, take a quiet moment to support the channel. If you enjoy calm storytelling, peaceful history, and relaxing facts designed to help you drift into sleep, consider subscribing and leaving a like on the video. Your support helps keep these slow, advert-free journeys alive. Now take another deep breath. Settle comfortably and let your mind wander softly back through time once again. Imagine the ancient city of Alexandria, resting beside the shimmering waters of the Mediterranean Sea. Founded more than 2,000 years ago, Alexandria quickly became one of the greatest centers of learning in the ancient world. At the heart of the city stood the famous Library of Alexandria. Scholars from many lands traveled there to read, write, and share knowledge. The library is believed to have held hundreds of thousands of scrolls made from papyrus. These scrolls contained poetry, philosophy, science, history, and stories from cultures across the known world. Inside the quiet halls of the library, scribes carefully copied texts by hand. With slow and steady movements, they dipped reed pens into ink and traced lines of writing across delicate sheets of papyrus. Their work preserved knowledge that might otherwise have been lost to time. Not far from the library stood another wonder of the ancient world, the Lighthouse of Alexandria. This towering structure stood beside the harbor, guiding ships safely toward the port. At night, a bright fire burned at the top of the lighthouse. Mirrors helped reflect the light far across the sea, allowing sailors to see the signal from many kilometers away. For travelers approaching the city after long voyages, the sight of that distant flame must have brought a deep sense of relief. Across the Mediterranean, in ancient Greece, mathematicians spent quiet hours studying numbers and shapes. One of the most famous was a scholar named Euclid. Euclid wrote a collection of books called The Elements. In these writings, he explained the principles of geometry, how lines, angles, and shapes relate to one another. His work became one of the most influential mathematical texts in history, studied by students for more than 2,000 years. Another Greek thinker named Archimedes loved solving problems about weight, balance, and movement. One day, while stepping into a bath, he noticed how the water level rose as his body entered the tub. This simple observation helped him understand how objects displace water. According to legend, he became so excited by this discovery that he ran through the streets shouting the Greek word Eureka, meaning, "I have found it." In the quiet countryside of ancient China, farmers worked patiently in fields surrounded by green hills. Water from nearby rivers was guided into irrigation channels that helped nourish crops. Rice fields stretched across valleys like shining mirrors, reflecting clouds drifting slowly across the sky. Planting rice required careful timing and cooperation between many farmers, making agriculture a shared effort that brought communities together. During festivals, lanterns illuminated villages with warm light. Families gathered to share meals, music, and traditional dances. Even thousands of years ago, people celebrated the changing seasons with joy and gratitude. In the highlands of Ethiopia, the ancient kingdom of Aksum grew into a powerful trading empire. Aksumite merchants traded goods with Egypt, Arabia, and even distant parts of India. The kingdom became famous for its tall stone monuments known as stelae. These towering pillars were carved from single pieces of rock and decorated with detailed designs that resembled windows and doorways. Some of these monuments stood more than 20 meters tall, carefully carved using tools far simpler than modern machines. Far away in northern Europe, ancient Celtic communities lived in villages surrounded by forests and rolling hills. Their homes were often round houses made from wood, clay, and thatched roofs. At night, families gathered around fires inside these homes. The warm glow of the flames illuminated wooden walls, while the soft crackling of burning wood created a calm and comforting sound. Celtic storytellers, known as bards, played an important role in these communities. They memorized long poems and legends, passing stories from one generation to the next through spoken word and song. Across the ocean in the Americas, the ancient city of Teotihuacan rose from the valley of central Mexico. Its wide avenues and massive pyramids made it one of the largest cities in the world nearly 2,000 years ago. The Pyramid of the Sun, one of the largest structures in the city, rises high above the surrounding landscape. From the top, visitors could see miles of temples, homes, and distant mountains. Although the people who built Teotihuacan left no written records explaining their city, archaeologists continue to uncover clues about their daily lives through pottery, murals, and tools. The walls of many buildings in Teotihuacan were decorated with colorful paintings. These murals showed birds, animals, gods, and flowing patterns that reflected the spiritual beliefs of the people who lived there. Meanwhile, in ancient Rome, engineers developed a special building material known as Roman concrete. By mixing volcanic ash with lime and water, they created a substance that hardened over time and became extremely strong. This innovation allowed Roman builders to construct massive domes, bridges, and public buildings. Some Roman concrete structures still stand today, nearly 2,000 years after they were built. One remarkable example is the Pantheon in Rome. Its enormous dome remains one of the largest unreinforced concrete domes ever constructed. At the center of the dome is a circular opening called the oculus. Sunlight streams through this opening, slowly moving across the interior walls as the day passes. When rain falls, drops of water fall gently through the oculus into the building below, a quiet reminder of the connection between architecture and nature. In ancient Polynesia, skilled navigators sailed across the vast Pacific Ocean in wooden canoes. Without compasses or modern instruments, they navigated using the stars, ocean currents, winds, and even the behavior of birds. These voyages allowed Polynesian explorers to settle islands scattered across thousands of kilometers of open ocean. The knowledge required for these journeys was passed down through generations, taught through careful observation and memory. Throughout the ancient world, people built monuments, cities, roads, and temples, but they also lived simple, everyday lives. They planted crops, cooked meals, told stories, cared for families, and watched the same sunsets that paint our skies today. Even across thousands of years, the rhythms of human life remain surprisingly familiar. And as you continue relaxing into this slow journey through ancient history, remember that these peaceful facts are only a small glimpse into a vast and fascinating past. Before we drift further into the next part of our story, take a moment to subscribe and support the channel if these calm historical journeys are helping you relax. Now take another slow breath, let your thoughts settle, and prepare to continue exploring the quiet wonders of the ancient world in the next part. Before we continue wandering through the calm landscapes of the ancient world, take a quiet moment to support the channel. If these peaceful stories and relaxing historical facts are helping you unwind or fall asleep, consider subscribing and leaving a like on the video. Your support allows more slow, advert-free journeys like this one to continue. Now, settle back comfortably, take a slow breath, and let your mind drift gently back through time once again. Imagine a cool morning in ancient Rome. The city slowly awakens as the first light of the sun touches the tiled rooftops and tall stone buildings. Merchants begin opening their shops, bakers prepare fresh bread in warm ovens, and the streets gradually fill with the quiet rhythm of daily life. Romans valued public spaces where people could gather. One of the most important places in the city was the Roman Forum. This large open plaza was surrounded by temples, government buildings, and market stalls. Here, people discussed politics, traded goods, and listened to public speeches. The Forum was the heart of Roman civic life, where the future of the empire was often debated beneath the open sky. Roman engineers were famous for their impressive construction techniques. They designed arches that allowed bridges and buildings to support enormous weight. The simple curved shape of an arch distributed pressure evenly, making structures stronger and more stable. Because of this discovery, Romans built aqueducts that carried fresh water across valleys and hills for many kilometers. One aqueduct near Rome, known as the Aqua Claudia, traveled more than 60 kilometers from its mountain source. The water flowed gently downhill through stone channels, eventually reaching fountains and baths inside the city. Public baths were one of the most relaxing parts of Roman daily life. These bathhouses were large complexes with warm rooms, hot pools, and cool plunge baths. People came not only to wash, but also to talk, read, exercise, and relax. Inside the bathhouses, steam filled the air, while quiet conversations echoed softly through marble halls. Across the Mediterranean Sea, ancient Greek scholars continued exploring the mysteries of the universe. One philosopher named Aristotle spent many years studying plants, animals, and the natural world. He believed that careful observation could help people understand how nature works. Aristotle wrote about biology, ethics, physics, and even the nature of happiness. His writings influenced learning for many centuries. Greek thinkers also spent time studying the stars. They noticed how certain constellations appeared at the same times each year, helping travelers and farmers track the seasons. One astronomer named Aristarchus proposed a surprising idea. He suggested that the Earth might actually move around the sun. Although most people at the time did not accept this theory, it was an early glimpse of an idea that would later transform astronomy. Far to the east, ancient Chinese inventors created tools that changed everyday life. One remarkable invention was paper. Before paper became common, writing materials were often heavy or difficult to produce. In early China, people sometimes wrote on bamboo strips or silk. But when paper was developed using plant fibers, it became easier to record information, share ideas, and preserve knowledge. This simple invention would eventually spread across the world, shaping education, literature, and communication for centuries to come. In the mountains of South America, the Inca civilization continued building remarkable stone cities and terraces. One fascinating feature of Inca engineering was their road system. The Inca created more than 40,000 kilometers of roads across the Andes Mountains. Some of these paths climbed steep cliffs, crossed deep valleys, and passed through snowy mountain passes. Suspension bridges made from woven plant fibers stretched across rivers and canyons. These bridges swayed gently in the wind, but were strong enough for travelers and animals to cross safely. Messengers known as chasquis ran along these roads, carrying small bundles of information called quipus. A quipu was made from colorful strings tied with knots. Each knot and string pattern represented numbers or messages. In this way, the Incas recorded important information without using a traditional writing system. Meanwhile, across the deserts of the Middle East, the ancient city of Petra thrived as a center of trade. Petra was carved directly into red sandstone cliffs, creating breathtaking buildings and temples within the rock itself. Visitors approaching Petra passed through a narrow canyon known as the Sick. As they walked between tall stone walls, the path slowly revealed the magnificent facade of a structure known as the Treasury. The soft red stone glowed warmly in the sunlight, creating one of the most beautiful sights in the ancient world. Petra's people were experts in water management. Even in a desert environment, they built channels and reservoirs that collected rainwater and stored it for dry seasons. This careful use of water allowed their city to flourish where survival might otherwise have been difficult. In ancient Egypt, scribes held a respected position in society. Learning to read and write hieroglyphs required many years of study. Hieroglyphs were a complex system of symbols representing sounds, objects, and ideas. Some symbols looked like birds, animals, tools, or human figures. Scribes used thin reed brushes to paint these symbols onto papyrus scrolls or carve them into stone monuments. Many tomb walls were covered with colorful hieroglyphic inscriptions that told stories of the person buried there. These writings described achievements, prayers, and hopes for the afterlife. The Egyptians believed that preserving a person's name and story helped their spirit continue to exist beyond death. Across the ancient world, time passed more slowly than it does today. Without modern clocks and schedules, people often measured the day by the movement of the sun. Morning began with sunrise. Midday arrived when the sun stood high in the sky, and evening came as the horizon glowed with fading light. At night, oil lamps flickered gently in homes across cities and villages. Families shared meals made from grains, vegetables, fruits, and sometimes meat or fish. Bread, olives, and honey were common foods throughout the Mediterranean. After dinner, people sometimes sat outside beneath the night sky. Without electric lights, the stars appeared brighter than we often see today. Ancient observers could easily see the Milky Way stretching like a glowing river across the heavens. They imagined stories within the constellations. Heroes, animals, and mythical creatures filled the sky with meaning. These stories helped people remember the stars and passed knowledge from generation to generation. And as the night grew quiet, cities gradually fell asleep. Fires dimmed, voices faded, and only the soft sounds of wind or distant animals remained. Just as it has for thousands of years, the earth continued turning slowly beneath the stars. Our peaceful journey through the ancient world continues to reveal small glimpses of lives lived long ago. And there are still many more relaxing facts and stories waiting ahead. Before we drift into the next part of this calm exploration, remember to subscribe and like the video if you're enjoying the journey. Your support helps bring more peaceful historical stories to life. Now breathe slowly, relax your mind, and prepare to continue our gentle walk through the ancient world in the next part. Before we continue our slow journey through the peaceful corners of the ancient world, take a quiet moment to support the channel. If you enjoy these calm historical stories and relaxing facts that help you unwind or fall asleep, consider subscribing and leaving a like on the video. Your support allows more advert-free journeys like this to exist. Now, take a slow breath, relax your shoulders, and let your thoughts drift gently back across thousands of years. Imagine the ancient city of Athens during a warm afternoon. The sun shines softly on white marble buildings, and a gentle breeze moves through olive trees growing on nearby hills. Above the city rises the Acropolis, a rocky hill crowned by one of the most famous structures of the ancient world, the Parthenon. The Parthenon was built more than 2,400 years ago as a temple dedicated to the goddess Athena, whom the Athenians believed protected their city. The temple was constructed from bright marble, quarried from nearby mountains. Skilled workers carefully shaped each stone block so that they fit perfectly together. Even today, the Parthenon stands as a symbol of balance, beauty, and careful design. The columns of the Parthenon appear perfectly straight from a distance, but they were actually built with subtle curves. These tiny adjustments help the structure look more balanced to the human eye. Greek architects understood that the way people see buildings is influenced by perspective, and they used this knowledge to create structures that felt harmonious and graceful. In the quiet countryside of ancient Greece, olive trees were an important part of everyday life. These trees can live for hundreds, sometimes even thousands of years. Olives were used to produce oil that served many purposes. People used olive oil for cooking, lighting lamps, preserving food, and even for skincare. Athletes in ancient Greece sometimes rubbed olive oil onto their skin before competitions, both for protection and for tradition. Traveling further east, we arrive in ancient India, where scholars studied mathematics and astronomy with careful patience. Indian mathematicians developed early forms of algebra and trigonometry. They studied the movement of the sun and moon, creating detailed calculations that helped predict eclipses. One remarkable mathematician named Aryabhata proposed that the Earth rotates on its axis. This idea explained why the stars appear to move across the sky each night. Although the Earth feels still beneath our feet, ancient thinkers had already begun exploring the possibility that our planet was quietly spinning through space. Meanwhile, in the forests and plains of ancient Europe, communities built large earthen mounds known as burial tumuli. These mounds were created by piling soil and stones over burial chambers where important individuals were laid to rest. Some of these burial sites contained carefully crafted objects such as jewelry, weapons, pottery, and tools. These items were often placed beside the deceased because people believed they might be useful in the afterlife. Archaeologists studying these mounds today have discovered fascinating glimpses into ancient craftsmanship and daily life. Across the ocean in the ancient Americas, the Maya civilization built cities surrounded by dense tropical forests. In these cities, tall pyramids rose above plazas where people gathered for ceremonies and celebrations. The Maya were also skilled architects who built observatories to study the stars and planets. One famous structure in the city of Chichen Itza is known as El Caracol, meaning the snail, because of the spiral staircase inside. This observatory allowed Maya astronomers to track the movement of Venus and other celestial bodies. Venus was especially important in Maya culture. Its appearance in the morning or evening sky was carefully recorded and connected to religious ceremonies. The Maya calendar system was incredibly complex. It included several interlocking cycles that tracked days, months, and long periods of time. Some of these calendar cycles extended for thousands of years. Meanwhile, in the deserts of northern Africa, travelers continued crossing the Sahara in long caravans. These caravans often included hundreds of camels carrying goods such as salt blocks, gold dust, textiles, and spices. Camels were perfectly suited for desert travel. Their wide feet helped them walk across sand, and their bodies could endure long journeys with limited water. At night, the desert cooled quickly, creating a calm and silent atmosphere beneath the stars. Travelers rested beside small fires, sharing stories and preparing simple meals before continuing their journey at dawn. In ancient Japan, early communities practiced rice farming in carefully organized fields. Farmers worked together to manage water flowing into rice paddies, ensuring that each field received the right amount of irrigation. Planting rice required teamwork, patience, and careful attention to the changing seasons. Festivals often celebrated the planting and harvesting of rice, bringing communities together in gratitude for a successful harvest. In the ancient Mediterranean world, people loved sailing along coastlines and exploring nearby islands. Greek sailors often traveled in wooden ships powered by both sails and rows of oars. The sea was both a pathway and a challenge. Sudden storms could appear quickly, and navigating unfamiliar waters required skill and experience. Yet, these voyages helped connect distant cultures through trade and shared knowledge. Ships carried pottery, wine, olive oil, grain, and artistic ideas from one port to another. In ancient Egypt, life along the Nile continued to follow the steady rhythm of the river. Each year, the Nile flooded its banks, leaving behind rich soil that nourished crops. Farmers planted wheat, barley, and vegetables in the darky, fertile ground left by the floodwaters. The Egyptians even created a calendar based partly on the timing of this annual flood. Their year included 12 months and additional festival days to celebrate important events and gods. In many ancient cultures, music played a peaceful role in daily life. Musicians used instruments such as flutes, harps, drums, and lyres to accompany storytelling, ceremonies, and celebrations. Soft melodies filled temples and homes, creating moments of calm reflection. Even thousands of years later, recreations of these ancient instruments still produce gentle sounds that echo the past. As evening arrived in cities and villages around the world, small lamps were lit one by one. Their warm glow illuminated rooms where families prepared meals and shared conversations. Outside, the sky slowly darkened as stars appeared across the heavens. People often paused to watch the moon rise above distant hills or rooftops. They saw the same constellations we see today: Orion, the Great Bear, and countless other patterns shining quietly in the night. The ancient world was filled with wonder, curiosity, and simple daily moments. People built great monuments and studied the stars, yet they also lived ordinary lives filled with work, family, and quiet evenings. And as you continue relaxing deeper into this peaceful journey through history, remember that our exploration of the ancient world is far from over. Before we move on to the next part, take a moment to subscribe and support the channel if these calming stories are helping you unwind. Now breathe slowly. Let your thoughts grow quiet and prepare to drift further into the ancient past in the next part. Before we continue our peaceful walk through the ancient world, take a gentle moment to support the channel. If these calm historical stories help you relax or fall asleep, consider subscribing and leaving a like on the video. Your support allows more slow, advert-free journeys like this one to continue. Now take a slow breath, let your mind settle, and drift once more into the quiet landscapes of the distant past. Imagine a quiet morning along the banks of the Tigris River in ancient Mesopotamia. The sun rises slowly over the flat horizon, casting golden light across fields of barley and wheat. Farmers begin their work early, guiding wooden plows pulled by oxen through the soft soil. Irrigation channels carry water from the river into the fields, allowing crops to grow even in the warm and dry climate. These irrigation systems were among the earliest examples of organized agriculture. Communities worked together to dig canals, maintain water flow, and ensure that farms received enough moisture for successful harvests. Without these canals, the land would have remained dry and difficult to farm. With them, cities flourished. Nearby, in the city itself, potters shaped clay into bowls, jars, and storage containers. Clay was one of the most useful materials in the ancient world. After shaping the clay by hand or with a spinning wheel, potters placed their creations into hot kilns, where the heat hardened them into durable pottery. Many ancient pottery pieces still survive today, decorated with painted patterns or simple designs. These objects help archaeologists understand how people cooked, stored food, and traded goods thousands of years ago. Far to the west, along the coast of ancient Greece, fishermen prepared their boats for the day's journey out to sea. Their wooden boats were small compared to modern ships, but they were carefully designed for stability on the water. Fishermen cast woven nets into the sea, hoping to catch fish such as tuna, sardines, and mackerel. Fish were an important part of the Mediterranean diet and were often salted or dried so they could be preserved for longer periods of time. As the sun climbed higher into the sky, the sea sparkled with bright reflections of light. In the ancient city of Sparta, life followed a very different rhythm than in other Greek cities. Sparta was known for its disciplined society and strong military culture. From a young age, Spartan boys were trained in physical endurance, teamwork, and survival skills. Yet, even in such a structured society, daily life still included simple activities like farming, cooking, and storytelling. Spartan homes were modest and practical, reflecting the values of simplicity and discipline that shaped their culture. Across the Mediterranean, in ancient Egypt, craftsmen worked carefully in workshops, creating jewelry and decorative objects. gold was especially valued because it did not tarnish or rust. Egyptians believed gold symbolized the eternal nature of the gods. Skilled artisans shaped gold into necklaces, rings, and intricate ornaments decorated with colorful gemstones and glass. Some of the most beautiful examples of Egyptian jewelry have been discovered in royal tombs, preserved for thousands of years beneath desert sands. Meanwhile, in the lush jungles of Central America, the Maya civilization continued to build impressive cities connected by raised stone roads known as sakbiob. These roads allowed travelers to move between cities even during rainy seasons when the jungle ground became muddy. The roads were often bright white because they were covered with crushed limestone that reflected sunlight. Walking along these paths, travelers could move through dense forests while staying on smooth, elevated surfaces. In the ancient Andes Mountains, Inca farmers cultivated one of the world's most versatile crops, the potato. The potato originally grew wild in the highlands of South America. Over time, farmers carefully selected and cultivated different varieties. Eventually, the Inca developed hundreds of types of potatoes, each suited to different climates and soil conditions. This agricultural knowledge helped sustain large populations in the challenging mountain environment. In addition to potatoes, the Inca grew maize, quinoa, and many other crops that thrived at high altitudes. Meanwhile, along the Silk Road, caravans continued their long journeys across deserts and mountain passes. Merchants carried silk from China, spices from India, precious stones from Central Asia, and glassware from the Mediterranean. These trade routes stretched for thousands of kilometers, linking cultures across continents. Along the way, travelers shared not only goods, but also stories, languages, and ideas. Some travelers spent months or even years moving between distant cities. In ancient China, scholars worked quietly on important inventions that shaped the future. One of these inventions was the compass. Early Chinese compasses used a naturally magnetic mineral called lodestone. When placed carefully on a smooth surface, the stone would align itself with the Earth's magnetic field, pointing roughly north and south. Although early compasses were not always used for navigation at first, they eventually became essential tools for travelers and sailors. Meanwhile, in the Roman Empire, people enjoyed visiting large public markets filled with goods from many parts of the world. These markets offered fruits, vegetables, spices, fabrics, pottery, and many other items. The scent of bread, olives, herbs, and roasted meats filled the air. Vendors called out to customers while shoppers examined goods and negotiated prices. Markets were lively places where people from many backgrounds gathered to trade and socialize. In ancient Persia, beautiful gardens were designed to create peaceful spaces within cities. These gardens often included flowing water, channels, shaded walkways, fruit trees, and fragrant flowers. The Persian word for garden eventually influenced the word paradise, reflecting how these green spaces were seen as places of peace and beauty. Visitors walking through these gardens could hear the gentle sound of water flowing through stone channels. The shade of tall trees provided relief from the warm desert climate. Throughout the ancient world, people found ways to create beauty even in difficult environments. They planted trees, built fountains, decorated walls with paintings, and crafted objects that reflected their creativity. And as evening slowly arrived across cities, deserts, forests, and mountains, the pace of life softened. Work came to an end, cooking fires were lit, and families gathered together. Children listened to stories told by parents and grandparents. The glow of small lamps illuminated rooms, while shadows danced gently along the walls. Outside, the sky darkened into deep shades of blue and black. Stars began to appear, one by one, until the entire sky sparkled with distant light. Ancient people looked up at these stars, just as we do today, wondering about the vast universe beyond our world. Some imagined the stars as gods or heroes watching over them. Others simply admired their beauty. The quiet rhythm of night returned once again, just as it had for thousands of years. And our calm journey through the ancient world continues. Before we move into the next part of this relaxing exploration, take a moment to subscribe and like the video if you're enjoying the peaceful storytelling. Your support helps create more slow journeys through history. Now, breathe deeply, relax your mind, and prepare to drift further into the ancient past in the next part. Before we continue our quiet journey through the ancient world, take a gentle moment to support the channel. If these relaxing stories and peaceful historical facts are helping you unwind, consider subscribing and leaving a like on the video. Your support helps keep these calm, advert-free journeys possible. Now settle in comfortably, take a slow breath, and allow your thoughts to drift softly back through the long corridors of history. Imagine the ancient city of Carthage resting along the warm coast of North Africa. The harbor is calm in the early morning, and the water reflects the soft orange light of sunrise. Ships slowly enter and leave the harbor, their sails catching the gentle sea breeze. Carthage was once one of the most powerful trading cities in the Mediterranean world. Its merchants traveled far across the sea, exchanging goods with distant lands. The city's harbor was cleverly designed. It included two separate sections, one for merchant ships and another circular harbor used by the navy. This inner harbor allowed warships to be stored and repaired while remaining hidden from outsiders. At the center of the circular harbor stood an island where commanders could observe the entire fleet. From there, they could watch the calm movement of ships across the water. Far away in the hills of ancient Italy, farmers worked quietly among vineyards and olive groves. The warm Mediterranean climate allowed grapes to grow easily on gentle slopes. After harvesting grapes, farmers crushed them to produce juice, which slowly fermented into wine. Wine was an important part of daily life in many ancient cultures. It was often diluted with water before drinking and served during meals or celebrations. Clay jars called amphorae were used to store and transport wind across long distances. These tall containers had narrow necks and 2 handles, making them easy to carry and stack on ships. Thousands of amphorae have been discovered in ancient shipwrecks beneath the sea, still resting quietly on the ocean floor. In the ancient Middle East, astronomers continued studying the night sky with patience and curiosity. Babylonian scholars carefully recorded the movements of planets across the heavens. They noticed patterns that repeated over time and used these observations to predict certain celestial events. Their records were written on clay tablets using cuneiform writing. Many of these tablets still exist today, giving modern historians valuable insight into early astronomy. When Babylonian astronomers observed the sky, they often did so from tall temple platforms that allowed a clear view of the horizon. Night after night, they watched the slow movement of stars, planets, and the moon. Across the vast plains of Central Asia, nomadic communities moved with their herds across open grasslands. These travelers lived in portable homes made from wooden frames covered with felt or animal skins. Such homes could be assembled and taken down quickly, allowing families to follow seasonal grazing lands. Their lives were closely connected to animals such as horses, sheep, and goats. Horses played a particularly important role. Skilled riders could travel long distances across the steppe, guiding herds and communicating with neighboring groups. The open landscape of the steppe stretched endlessly beneath wide skies filled with drifting clouds. Meanwhile, along the fertile Nile River, Egyptian farmers continued planting crops in fields enriched by the annual flood. The Egyptians developed simple but effective tools to help with irrigation. One of these tools was the shaduf, a device used to lift water from rivers or canals. The shaduf consisted of a long wooden pole balanced on a pivot, with a bucket attached to one end and a counterweight on the other. By pulling down the bucket into the water and lifting it with the help of the counterweight, farmers could easily transfer water into irrigation channels. This simple invention helped increase agricultural productivity along the Nile for centuries. Across the ocean in ancient North America, the ancestors of the Pueblo people built remarkable dwellings in cliffs and canyons. These homes were constructed from stone and clay, often built directly into the sides of tall cliffs. The cliff dwellings provided natural protection from weather and potential threats. Rooms were connected by ladders and small passageways, creating complex communities built high above the canyon floor. From these elevated homes, residents could see across landscapes of desert and rock formations. Meanwhile, in ancient China, silk production became one of the most valued crafts in the world. Silk was made from the delicate fibers spun by silkworms. Workers carefully raised silkworms and fed them mulberry leaves. When the worms formed cocoons, the silk fibers could be unwound into fine threads. These threads were then woven into smooth, shining fabric. For many centuries, the techniques used to produce silk were closely guarded secrets. The beauty and softness of silk made it highly desired in distant lands, and it became one of the most famous products traded along the Silk Road. In ancient Greece, philosophers continued exploring questions about life and knowledge. One famous philosopher named Plato founded a school known as the Academy in Athens. Students gathered there to discuss philosophy, mathematics, and the nature of truth. Rather than simply memorizing information, students were encouraged to ask questions and explore ideas through thoughtful conversation. This tradition of learning through dialogue influenced education for many generations. In ancient Rome, people enjoyed attending large chariot races held in massive arenas known as circuses. The most famous of these arenas was the Circus Maximus. This enormous stadium could hold hundreds of thousands of spectators. Chariots pulled by teams of horses raced around a long oval track while crowds cheered loudly from the stands. Although the races were exciting and fast, the architecture of the stadium itself was an impressive achievement. Stone seating tiers rose high above the track, allowing large crowds to watch events comfortably. Across the ancient world, art played an important role in expressing ideas and beliefs. Artists painted walls with colorful murals, carved statues from stone, and shaped clay into decorative objects. Some artworks showed scenes of daily life, such as farming, hunting, or music. Others depicted gods, mythical creatures, or legendary heroes. Through these works of art, ancient people shared their values, stories, and imagination. Even thousands of years later, these artistic creations continue to inspire curiosity and admiration. As evening returned once again to ancient cities and villages, life slowed gently. Cooking fires glowed softly inside homes, while the smell of bread, grains, and herbs filled the air. Families gathered to eat, talk, and rest after long days of work. Outside, the sky gradually darkened as the first stars appeared. The moon slowly rose above mountains, deserts, forests, and oceans. Ancient people watched the sky carefully, just as humans have done for thousands of years. They saw patterns in the stars, created stories about constellations, and used the heavens as guides for navigation and timekeeping. And as night deepened, the world grew quiet. The sounds of voices faded, fires dimmed, and only the soft whisper of wind remained. Our peaceful journey through the ancient world continues, revealing gentle glimpses of life long ago. And there are still more calming stories waiting ahead. Before we move on to the next part, remember to subscribe and like the video if you're enjoying this relaxing exploration of history. Your support helps bring more quiet historical journeys to life. Now take another slow breath. Let your thoughts grow still and prepare to drift further into the ancient world in the next part. Before we continue drifting through the peaceful landscapes of the ancient world, take a gentle moment to support the channel. If these relaxing stories and calm historical facts help you unwind at the end of the day, consider subscribing and leaving a like on the video. Your support helps keep these slow, advert-free journeys possible. Now take a slow breath, relax your body, and allow your thoughts to wander quietly back through thousands of years. Imagine a calm sunrise over the ancient city of Persepolis in what is now modern-day Iran. The early morning light touches wide stone staircases and tall columns rising from the palace complex. Persepolis was built by the Persian Empire more than 2,500 years ago. It served as a ceremonial capital where rulers welcomed visitors from across their vast lands. Delegations from many different cultures traveled to Persepolis, bringing gifts such as textiles, animals, precious metals, and crafted goods. The walls of the palace were decorated with detailed carvings showing these visitors walking peacefully toward the king. These stone reliefs are still visible today, showing people from many regions wearing their traditional clothing and carrying offerings. The carvings give us a quiet glimpse of how diverse the Persian Empire truly was. In the warm sunlight, the columns of Persepolis cast long shadows across the stone floor, and the surrounding mountains create a calm and majestic setting. Meanwhile, far to the west, ancient sailors continued exploring the Mediterranean Sea. Greek and Phoenician ships followed coastlines and islands, learning the winds and currents that shaped their journeys. Navigating the sea required patience and careful observation. Sailors often watched the flight patterns of birds, which sometimes indicated that land was nearby. At night, the stars became their most reliable guides. By studying constellations such as the Great Bear and the North Star, sailors could maintain their direction even when surrounded by endless water. The gentle creaking of wooden ships and the rhythmic movement of waves created a calm but powerful atmosphere during these long voyages. Across the vast deserts of Arabia, traders traveled along caravan roads connecting cities such as Petra, Damascus, and Mecca. Caravans moved slowly across sandy landscapes, guided by experienced travelers who knew where water sources could be found. The desert during the day could be extremely hot, but at night it transformed into a peaceful and cool environment. Under clear skies filled with stars, travelers rested beside small fires and shared quiet conversations. These journeys helped connect cultures and allowed valuable goods to move between continents. In ancient China, builders began expanding sections of defensive walls along northern borders. Over many generations, these separate walls would eventually connect and grow into what we now know as the Great Wall. The construction of these walls required enormous effort. Workers used local materials such as packed earth, bricks, and stones to create long barriers stretching across mountains and valleys. Although the wall is often imagined as a single structure, it actually developed gradually over many centuries. In the countryside beyond the cities, farmers continued tending rice fields that shimmered with reflected sunlight. Water from rivers and canals flowed gently into the paddies, nourishing the crops. Farmers carefully planted young rice shoots in neat rows. As the plants grew, the fields turned bright green, creating beautiful landscapes across the valleys. Meanwhile, in the ancient city of Rome, daily life continued in busy neighborhoods filled with apartment buildings known as insulae. These multi-story buildings allowed many families to live within the crowded city. The lower floors often contained shops where merchants sold bread, olives, fruit, and household goods. Above the shops were small living spaces where families cooked meals and shared daily life. The streets outside were lively, with the sounds of carts rolling over stone roads and people moving between markets and public squares. Despite the energy of the city, evenings in Rome could become surprisingly calm. As night arrived, oil lamps illuminated windows while distant voices gradually faded. Across the ocean, in Mesoamerica, the ancient city of Tikal rose above the dense rainforest canopy. Tall pyramids and temples stood like stone mountains emerging from the jungle. From the top of these structures, observers could see the endless green forest stretching toward the horizon. Maya priests and astronomers sometimes climbed these temples to watch the sky. They carefully recorded the positions of stars, the movements of planets, and the phases of the moon. These observations allowed them to build detailed calendars that guided ceremonies and agricultural activities. In the Andes Mountains, the Inca civilization continued building stone structures that blended beautifully with the surrounding landscape. One of the remarkable features of Inca construction was the way stones were shaped to fit together perfectly. Each block was carved with such precision that the stones locked tightly into place without the need for mortar. This technique helped buildings remain stable even during earthquakes. Many Inca walls still stand today, quietly demonstrating the skill of ancient builders. Meanwhile, in ancient Egypt, temples dedicated to gods such as Amun, Ra, and Isis were filled with carved columns and colorful murals. Priests performed daily rituals inside these temples, lighting incense and presenting offerings of food, flowers, and perfumes. The scent of incense drifted softly through temple halls, while sunlight filtered through tall stone pillars. These sacred spaces were designed to feel mysterious and peaceful. Visitors walking through temple corridors often saw walls covered with hieroglyphs telling stories of gods, kings, and cosmic order. Across the ancient world, writing continued to evolve in many forms. Some cultures used pictographs, where symbols represented objects or ideas. Others developed alphabets, where symbols represented individual sounds. These writing systems allowed people to record history, share knowledge, and preserve stories for future generations. Without writing, many ancient discoveries might have disappeared with time. Instead, clay tablets, papyrus scrolls, and carved stone inscriptions continue to carry voices from the distant past. As the day slowly fades across deserts, forests, mountains, and oceans, evening returns once again. Cooking fires glow softly inside homes. Families share meals made from grains, vegetables, fruits, and herbs. Children listen to stories told by parents and grandparents. Outside, the sky slowly fills with stars. Ancient people watched those same stars thousands of years ago, wondering about the mysteries of the universe. They saw patterns in the constellations and imagined stories about heroes, animals, and gods living among the lights of the sky. The quiet rhythm of night returned again and again, guiding life across generations. And as you relax deeper into this calm journey through the ancient world, remember that our exploration is almost complete. Before we continue into the final part of our story, take a moment to subscribe and like the video if you're enjoying this peaceful historical adventure. Your support helps keep these relaxing journeys alive. Now, breathe slowly. Allow your mind to rest and prepare for the final part of our gentle exploration of the ancient world. Before we reach the final moments of our peaceful journey through the ancient world, take a gentle moment to support the channel. If these relaxing stories and calm historical facts have helped you unwind or drift towards sleep, consider subscribing and leaving a like on the video. Your support helps keep these quiet, advert-free journeys alive for everyone who enjoys relaxing history. Now, take one more slow breath, allow your mind to settle, and let us wander together through the final chapter of our calm exploration of the ancient past. Imagine the world thousands of years ago as night slowly falls across many different lands. In ancient Egypt, the Nile River moves quietly through the dark landscape, reflecting the soft glow of the moon. Palm trees sway gently in the evening breeze, while distant temples stand silent along the riverbanks. Inside nearby villages, small oil lamps flicker softly inside mud brick homes. Families gather together after a long day of farming and work. Bread is shared, simple meals are eaten, and stories are told as the warm desert air slowly cools. The pyramids stand silently beneath the night sky, just as they have for thousands of years. Their massive stones, carefully placed by ancient builders, continue to face the stars that once guided Egyptian priests and astronomers. Meanwhile, across the Mediterranean Sea, quiet waves roll gently onto the shores of ancient Greece. In the countryside, olive groves stretch across rolling hills. Many of these trees have lived for centuries, their twisted trunks and silver leaves glowing faintly beneath the moonlight. Small villages rest peacefully among these hills. Stone houses grow quiet as people settle into sleep after days filled with farming, trade, and conversation. High above the city of Athens, the Parthenon stands proudly atop the Acropolis. Its marble columns glow pale under the moonlight, reminding us of the creativity and dedication of the people who built it long ago. Far to the east, along the ancient Silk Road, a caravan of merchants slowly makes its way across a quiet desert. The camels move steadily across the sand, their footsteps soft and rhythmic. Lanterns hanging from saddles sway gently as travelers guide their animals beneath a sky filled with brilliant stars. The Silk Road connected many cultures across thousands of kilometers. Along these routes, traders carried silk, spices, precious stones, glassware, and ideas. Stories, languages, religions, and technologies traveled along these same paths, slowly shaping the development of civilizations. In ancient China, villages rest peacefully beside rice fields that shimmer softly in the moonlight. The quiet sound of water flowing through irrigation channels continues even during the night. These flowing streams nourish crops that will feed entire communities. In distant mountains, watchtowers along early sections of the Great Wall stand silently against the dark horizon. For centuries, these towers allowed guards to watch over the land and send signals across long distances using smoke during the day and fire at night. Meanwhile, across the ocean in the Americas, the ancient Maya city of Tikal rests beneath the dense rainforest canopy. Tall temple pyramids rise above the trees like stone mountains. At night, the jungle becomes alive with sound. Insects hum softly while distant animals call through the darkness. Above the temples, the stars shine brightly in the clear tropical sky. Maya astronomers once climbed these temples to watch the heavens with careful attention. They tracked the movements of Venus, the moon, and the sun, creating calendars that measured time with incredible accuracy. High in the Andes Mountains, the quiet ruins of Inca cities sit peacefully among mist-covered peaks. Stone terraces carved into steep hillsides remain as reminders of ancient farmers who once grew crops high above the valleys. The carefully shaped stones of Inca buildings still fit together perfectly, even after centuries of wind, rain, and earthquakes. In these mountain landscapes, clouds drift slowly between towering peaks, while rivers carve paths through deep valleys below. Across the ancient world, people lived lives that were both extraordinary and familiar. They built temples, pyramids, roads, and cities that still inspire wonder today. They studied the stars, created calendars, and explored ideas about mathematics, medicine, and philosophy. But they also lived simple daily lives. They woke with the sunrise, worked in fields and workshops, shared meals with family, and rested beneath the same sky we see today. Children played in village streets, farmers planted seeds, and watched crops grow with patience. Storytellers gathered listeners around fires to share legends about heroes and gods. Musicians played flutes, drums, and stringed instruments, filling quiet evenings with gentle melodies. Across deserts, forests, mountains, and oceans, people found ways to create beauty, knowledge, and connection. Even though thousands of years separate us from these ancient civilizations, their stories continue to shape our world. The alphabets we use, the roads we travel, the buildings we design, and the knowledge we study all carry echoes of ancient discoveries. When we look at the stars, we follow a tradition shared by countless generations before us. Ancient astronomers watched the same constellations that shine above us tonight. They wondered about the universe, asked questions, and searched for meaning in the patterns of the sky. And perhaps, in quiet moments like this, they also paused simply to admire the beauty of the night. As our peaceful journey through the ancient world slowly comes to an end, the world grows quiet once again. Cities fall asleep, fires fade into glowing embers, the wind moves softly across deserts and forests. Above everything, the stars continue their silent journey across the sky. This ancient world may seem distant, but in many ways, it is still with us. Its stories live in the ruins of old cities, in the writings preserved on ancient tablets, and in the traditions passed down through generations. And tonight, for a little while, we've walked calmly through that distant past together. Before you drift fully into sleep, remember to subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed this relaxing journey through ancient history. Your support helps create more peaceful storytelling and calm explorations of the past. Now take one final slow breath. Let your thoughts become quiet and allow yourself to rest, knowing that the long story of human history continues gently beneath the same stars that watched over the ancient world.